welcome into another edition of the Lion Digital Network First Bank Coaches Show. I'm Ray Pack alongside women's head basketball coach Joshua Epperson. Well, Coach, do you have a good, first off, do you have a good Christmas?
We did.
Good New Year's.
Yeah, that was great.
Spend some time with family and
We
other
did.
friends.
Yeah, I got to go see my parents some and go see Kelly's mom and her relatives. So it was a good Christmas. And when you have 8 and 10-year-old little girls, it's a good time of year for you.
Exactly. I understand that with my 3 little ones. But, well, we got some prior games that we would like to talk about, of course, before the break. Back all the way back December the 10th, you traveled over to UT Southern, came away with a 62-46 win there. What was the highlight of that game for you?
I think the big thing for us, obviously defense. We did a great job on the defensive end of the floor that game. We did a good job. We had a couple foul trouble here or there, handled that. Rachel had to sit out at points with some foul trouble. But overall, a good complete game. That's a tough place to play. So anytime you can go to UT Southern and get a win, it's difficult. If you ever get to go to their gym too, it is super cold.
Yeah, take your jacket.
So take your jacket. We actually prepared. We set our gym temperature lower going into the game to make sure we're ready for it. And I think it seemed to help. Obviously, the boys got a big win there on the road too. So both teams coming away with a big road win.
Well, then we came back home the following Thursday, and you took Thomas More, #1 team in the country, all the way to the wire.
Yeah, it was a great game. First half, girls did a great job executing our game plan. They made some adjustments as it went on to it, but our girls, punch for punch, stayed with them. There was one stretch during the game where it kind of got all away, and it was tough for us to claw all the way back. But the girls did a great job defensively. Once again, they were locked into the game plan as far as what they had to do scouting-wise, gave them the shots we wanted to give them. And at the end of the day, they're a really good team. There's a reason they're #1 team in the country.
You're right.
And so, and they showed it, a couple of days ago, they played a game. They won 122-60 something. So, anytime you can hold them in the 60s like we did, that's a big statement for us defensively.
Well, that was a 67-60 loss, and of course, that was been about 3 weeks ago. But it seems to my memory is it was the last 5 minutes of the game when they really started to pull away.
They did, and they have a lot of depth, and that's a thing that helps them a lot. With some of the injuries we have this year, that probably hurts our depth at times, as far as some of these teams in our conference, the top teams play and have as many as 10 people sometimes that they'll play routinely.
And then that following Saturday, of course, Wilberforce, the newest member of the conference, came to Henderson, and that was a 69-46 final there. Pretty much, you kind of worried about them, because they were athletic, very athletic team. Just it seemed to me they were a little disorganized in what they were trying to do. Is that a
There's 2 parts to them. Number one, you saw in the first quarter, I think they were up by 2 in the first quarter, 20-18. They banked a 3 and they had some shots there. The thing that's difficult is stat-wise, their stats aren't accurate about them. And so we'd watch some film, but they have some people that are very streaky shooters. And they start out shooting really well at the beginning of the game. If that happens, you have some problems there, because if they're shooting well and they have their athleticism, they can really give you some problems. Our girls did a good job later once we kind of figured out, okay, this is what the actual player's going to do today. She's going to shoot well today. We have to play her that way. Girls made some great changes really in the third quarter. And that's one thing I will say about this team in general. The third quarter has been a quarter that they've done well in over the course of the year. And first and third. First has been iffy sometimes, but a lot of times the third quarter we've been strong in that quarter. And so hopefully that's based on our girls adjusting to the team, and hopefully some adjustments by us too. And just maybe sometimes us wearing somebody out a little bit going to the second half. Their starters may not do as well as our starters at the beginning of that thirds.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to the second half of the season. You're going into that second half 11-3, 6-3 in conference play. I know we got some tough games. We're going to talk about those in a minute. But I looked down here and I looked at this year's stats compared to where we were last year. Field goal percentage is up a tick. 3-point field goal percentage is pretty close to the same as it was last year. The big difference this year is this free throw percentage.
Yeah.
And talk about the importance of free throw shooting.
It's really important, especially for our team. We want to get to the line a lot, and obviously if you're going to get there, you want to make it count. I praise a lot to KJ White lately. She gets to the line a lot for us in the last 2 games. If I'm correct, I don't think she missed a free throw in the last 2 games.
She did not in the last 2 games that we played. As she comes in, looking at the stat line, she comes in 33 or 41. She's shooting 80%, and last year I think she was shooting somewhere around 60 to 65%.
Yeah, it's a big improvement. You know, she puts a lot of work into that on her own, and it shows. I think the 2 biggest trends, looking at the stats from last year and things like that, that are in a good phase for us right now. Number one, like we talked about, free throw shooting is getting better. And the other one, too, that's been really important for us is last year we were amazing at taking care of the basketball. And early in the year, we weren't taking care of it as well as we would like. You go back to the UT Southern game, that was a tough game for us turnover-wise. But the last 2 games, especially that Thomas More game, the turnovers were much more where we want them to be. And that's going to be really important. The next 2 teams, I'm sure we're going to talk about that next as far as that goes. But that's going to be a crucial thing there, is that turnover, and the turnover margin will be really important.
Turnovers per game right now is at 13.4. So,
right.
And it's been consistent at that level for the last several weeks. But
yeah, and that's not, that's the top 20 in the country right now. So that's most people would want to be in the top 20 in the country when it comes to that.
I tried to find some of that information, but it really didn't have team stats
Yeah.
on the Presto site.
It's tough. You got to search. You got to know some.
You got to search, and
it's not easy to pop out to you there.
So anyway, well, let me ask you a philosophy on free. We talk about free throw shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I've said for a long time, and I've heard other commentators, even other coaches, the goal should be for your team is to make more free throws than the other team shows, or at least be within a 2 or 3 shot margin.
Yeah.
Does that hold true? Is that a philosophy you
definitely
look at as far as?
We definitely want that. That's the key for us. I forgot what game it was. There was one game this season where that was the big difference in the second half, was that we did not go to the line at all, and the other team did. And I believe it was the Cumberland game. I'm almost positive that was the game where we did not shoot many free throws at all the second half, and they shot quite a few. And that's a big determining factor. Now, just like any stats, it doesn't show the total picture, because you know how it is. Sometimes some of those free throws the team might shoot is because you had to foul them at the end of the game.
That's
so
true.
that could skew it sometimes. But before that point, you better have been to line more and made more than they attempted. So I think that's a great one. And it also teaches about your defense. Like, you're not putting them on the line. So not just about you getting there, but it's also about keeping them off there. And that's a key for us as a team, is we have to find ways to attack inside to get to the line. And there's 3 ways to do that usually. You can do it by cutting, which we don't do a lot of cutting. We don't have a lot of longer guards or something like that to do that. We have a couple that you can occasionally with. By post-ups, which is obviously a very traditional way for us to do it in the past. We're a little young at the post, so that's inconsistent, but sometimes that's been really good for us there. And then the third way, which is big for us this year, being as guard-heavy as we are at times, is driving. And so that's also why you'll see people zone us at times, which you're thinking, why would they zone you when you're so good shooting outside? But what it does is it does negate some of our drivers, because they have nowhere to drive, or if they do, there's somebody there waiting for them. So you look at Rachel Satterley, Synergy shows that her points per possession drop drastically when you go zone, because it takes her out of the opportunity to drive and get to the free throw line.
Okay. Well, Coach, we'll take a break right here and come back and preview the upcoming games right here on the Line Digital Network First Bank Coaches Show.
At First Bank, we tell our customers to bank local and get more. But everyone's more is different. Is yours more adventure? More space? More education, or work that's more you? We always say bank local, get more. More product range, more accessible bankers, and a whole lot less standing in your way. Whatever your more, you can now get more excited, because we got this.
Ray Pack back here with Coach Joshua Epperson on the First Bank Coaches Show. Well, Coach, you got a big road trip coming up. I assume y'all will be leaving tomorrow.
We will. You're right. We're headed up to Kentucky. Right now, we're tied for 3rd right now with Georgetown and Cumberland's. Both these are the teams that we play on the road. We play Cumberland's first here. And both scrappy teams, both really good. Cumberland's is coming in at 12-3. And Georgetown's record is the same in conference, but they've played a very tough non-conference schedule. And so Georgetown's ranked in the top 25, and Cumberland's is right outside receiving votes. And so big games. It'll really differentiate for us where we're at coming back from those. And good tests for our girls. You know, we need to win some good road games, and these will be good tests for us.
Well, as we've said many times before, playing on the road in the Mid-South Conference, every game is a challenge.
Well, you know, I talked to Jeff Hahn, who's the coach at Thomas More. He's talking about his first year in the conference. He said he was talking about how tough it was. He said at home, I believe they didn't lose a game or they lost one all year. But he says on the road, and this is a team that won the conference basically, they went 500 on every road trip. He says it's just really tough. He said now it kind of became that year for him. He's like, we got to at least go 500 on the road. And so just because it is really difficult to win on the road. So it'll be big for our girls to be ready for that.
Well, Thursday's game against Cumberland's, the University of the Cumberlands, so we don't confuse people.
Yeah.
Looks like that's a 4:30 tip-off for you, our time. What do you expect as far as Cumberland? What do you think the strategy they're going to throw at you is going to be? What are they going to try to stop the most besides Rachel Sackler?
Except that. Well, first of all, they're going to want to run. They play up to 14 people. They actually may play 15 now. They have a girl that wasn't eligible until last week who is a Division I transfer. She played her first game the other day, just played sparingly and just scored 19 points. So we've got her to add to a team that was already really good. They're very quick. They've got some twins that come from Clark Range, Tennessee, which a lot of people are familiar with, a perennial powerhouse in our state. And they're very, very quick. Short, but very quick. They love to press. They're going to, even though you said it, they're going to double in the full court Rachel and not let her get the basketball. And then when they get to the half court, they're going to be denying a lot. They do run some zone. They have a 6'4" post player that's a project. This is only her third year playing organized basketball. So it's interesting watching her on film from the first of the year to now, that progress that she is making. Hopefully, for our sake, she doesn't keep continuing to progress because 6'4" girl that gets good will be tough to stop. But when she's in, they'll play a little bit more zone because they want to keep her inside.
They want to keep her at the basket.
Yeah, and they have another 6'2", 6'3" girl that comes off the bench, but she plays more of a 4. But they do play a lot of people. They like to drive. They love, like you were talking about earlier, they love to get to the free throw line, and they do a great job of getting there in transition. So transition offense is going to be your key. They're one of the top 5 scoring teams in the country, and they're one of the best teams in the country in scoring in transition. So the game plan from us is we have to stop their transition game, and we have to make it a half-court game. They shoot within 7 or 8 seconds. So they don't want to sit down and guard, and they also don't want to sit down.
So you want to shorten the game.
We want to shorten it, and we want to make sure that they have to play some on offense and actually run their half-court offense.
Okay.
Which they don't really have. Usually it's just drive and shoot. So.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's talk about Georgetown, number 24 in the country. I do know that one thing I do know about Georgetown is you mentioned the D1 transfer at Cumberland's. Georgetown picked up a big-time D1 transfer from University of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And so tell us, what are you looking at against Georgetown?
They're similar in some ways to Cumberland's, but a little bit different. Their speed is probably a little thicker, a little taller. They have a little length at the guard positions, a little bit more than Cumberland's does. They are not as good at outside shooting team, but they are, as you alluded to, they have some transfers. They have some people that are very athletic and very good at getting to the rim. The girl that transferred from Kentucky, she is a streaky shooter, and that's kind of the knock on them as a team. Is if you get them on an off shooting night, you're in good shape. If they're shooting well on the outside, it's a really tough matchup for anyone because they can get to the rim anytime they want to. And they've got pretty good post game. They had a girl that was one of their best post players last year that hurt her labrum in her shoulder. So she was out for most of the year last year. She's back. And so once again, they have a couple kids that started for them last year that are on the bench this year. So showing how when they come off the bench, they're really
They've
good.
got the experience of being a starter.
Exactly.
So it's not a shocking experience.
No.
Well, you look at that and you talked about their philosophy. You don't give away your game plan or anything, but what are your intents? Are you going to do as you've been doing, playing about 60-40 man-to-man zone? Or is the flow of the game going to dictate exactly what you're going to do?
I think people can expect us to mix it up. There are some games we go into like, oh, we're going to do more of this or more of the other. I think in these games we go in thinking we're going to throw a little bit more at them and just see how they adjust with the zone or the man. Just see, okay, hey, they're doing well against it. We're going to get out. There have been games, now that it's in the past, we went into the Wilberforce game knowing we were going to play more zone against them. It turned out we went man for a little spell there, and it actually worked well in the times it did.
You all went to man. You probably were in man 40% of the time, which is opposite of what you usually do. But it's the matchup that you got to play.
It is a matchup. I would say you'll probably see, you would think going into it, you'll probably see a little bit more man than you would zone in both these games. That Georgetown game will be interesting because we don't know
what's working.
Exactly. If they're struggling, I know last year here at our place was the first time we really showed our zone at all, other than an Oakwood game last year. And so they had beat us pretty soundly, Cumberland's had last year. And nobody zones them because they can shoot it so well and everything else. And we threw the zone at them, and it was basically what won us the game. We didn't play it all game, but they had 5 or 6 turnovers that led to baskets, and we got up 10 or so points, and we never went under 10 again. And so, but it was only like 7 or 8 possessions. So, and that was a key for us going this year. Sometimes there'll be games like that. 7 or 8 possessions, we'll throw it at you. Sometimes we'll throw it at 30 or 40. So you just got to be ready. So.
I guess one more question.
Yeah.
I know for a fact, and I'm not a prophet or anything,
sure,
a fortune teller, but I'm sure that Cumberland's and Georgetown have prepared to make somebody besides Rachel Satterley be the main contributor.
I know they have. I know they're both really good coaches. Rick Reeves was a coach at D1 at Liberty at one point. Is one of the only Division I coaches in history that had an undefeated regular season. And so I think they went 32-0 or something like that. So he's a good coach. I know he'll be ready. He talks to me all the time. Rick and I are, you always have those coaching friends. He is one of my close coaching friends. We talk all the time. I try not to give him much as we talk about things. I try to be Lou Holtz of old. We've been warming up our punter all week, stuff like that. So, but he'll be prepared. And the coach at Georgetown, obviously, he's done a really good job there. He'll be ready for us as well. So, yeah.
You just know everybody. Rachel coming in at averaging 18.4.
Yeah. But the thing that's crazy about it, though, saying all that, and they may shut her down and everything else, she's been doing it all year long.
Right.
She gets player of the week, and we're like, well, this week they're going to stop her because they got to know. She still comes out and does it. So I'm like, yeah, it's one of those things that'll be interesting to see what happens as far as those adaptations.
We want to wish you good luck on your road trip. Hope you have safe travels. I'm Ray Pack, Coach Joshua Epperson, and we appreciate you tuning in to the Lion Digital Network First Bank Coaches Show.